So I got to ask, Ryan, are you the mole? Welcome everyone to Real Talk with My Homies. I'm your host, Jake Wardrop, licensed realtor with Homepage Realty in Louisville, Kentucky. Today I'm joined by Ryan Warner, an old friend and a new contest television star from The Mole Season 2 on Netflix. We'll get into the more details later, but Ryan was on the most recent season of The Mole on Netflix. Final 2 episodes were released on July 12th. This is your spoiler warning. We are going to talk about how it ends. If you have not seen it or don't want it to be spoiled, save this, come back to it, all that, whatever they normally say.
And then come back.
Exactly. We're going to talk about the show for probably the next 30 minutes. So like I said, we could spoil it for somebody, but Ryan, it has been a minute. I've known each other since we were like 16 or 17.
High school.
It has been a while. So you're married now, have a family. Any shout out to the kids, husband?
Yes. Hi, husband. Hi, kids. I'm excited. They've gotten to watch the show, obviously.
Yeah.
I think it was fun for them. I think a little weird for my older kids, just like seeing me and stuff. But we've loved watching it as a family. So
yeah, you all have to do I saw on
fun.
Facebook, you all did like watch parties. So that was cool.
We did.
So I got to ask, Ryan, are you the mole?
No.
Okay. All right.
I'm not the mole.
I have seen the final episode, so I do know how it plays out.
Yeah.
So what made you apply for the show? What started how did this whole thing come to be? I know you said it recorded like a year ago, so you kind of had to sit on it.
Yeah, we recorded a year ago over in Malaysia. So I left in July. I was actually DM'd on Instagram. So I was recruited.
So Netflix slid into the DMs.
I was recruited by a casting company. They reached out to me on Instagram, and then funny story, I thought it was a huge scam. I thought it was a joke. I ended up looking up the person on LinkedIn.
Yep.
And then after a few days went by, I did this casting director kept reaching out, so I finally gave her my number, and she called and she was like, "I am dead serious.
I'm very real.
I want you to be on this." This was in May. I remember it because it was Derby time.
Yeah.
I'll never forget because it was Derby time. It's a huge time here in Louisville. So I had an initial interview, like a Zoom, and they asked a lot of questions about me. And kind of got to know me a little bit. And then they were like, okay, well, you have to officially go through the application. We just need you to fill it out just because there's a lot of questions we want answers to. Yeah. And then that was it. I was needed to get my passport.
How long did they, from the time that you applied to the time you were accepted, what was the timeline?
It was probably 5-6 weeks by the time from the initial Zoom interview to the other interviews, and actually probably just a few weeks before I actually knew I was on the show. And then we were just waiting for my passport to get here. And we were waiting for my passport. And then 2 weeks before I left, they gave me a destination and a date that I was leaving.
Wow. So you just leave out of Louisville International Airport?
Right, yeah. They told me actually the 6th or 7th of July. And then about 3 days before July 4th, they said, okay, we need you here sooner. You're leaving July 4th.
Jeez. So was this, I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Was this the first show that you applied for?
Yes. Yes. I've never applied to do anything else like this.
So what's next then? You want to do more competition shows?
That's a great question.
Get you on Big Brother, Real World? Is that still a thing?
Yeah, I guess. I'm not opposed to doing anything like that. It was a once-in-a-lifetime experience at a beautiful destination. And I think it's kind of opened my eyes to this could be something super fun to do, that it's not, everyone in the world doesn't get to do this.
Oh, yeah.
And so if the opportunity comes knocking, I'll go for it. There's obviously things that are casted all the time. So with Netflix, if you're, Netflix reality, so there's other shows kind of constantly popping up. So I will not turn away that opportunity, and I may even go apply instead of get recruited.
If you could do a certain show, if you could pick the next show you're on and you didn't have to actually apply, what would you do?
That's a great question.
Squid Games? Not the real
Squid Games.
The one where you just have to go get eliminated.
I haven't actually finished the Squid Games yet. So I'm not sure on that one.
Don't tell Netflix that.
I know I haven't finished that one yet. I've been anticipating, this all coming out. Obviously, I'm not going to do a dating show.
That's a good call. Good
that
call.
was the funniest thing when they initially put out that I was on a Netflix show. They were like, we thought it was a dating show.
Temptation Island.
As a joke, we thought it was a dating show. It is not a dating show. I don't know. I have to think about that one for a second.
All right. Is there a group chat with all the mole contestants?
Yes, we are all super close. We text in it right now. We're texting in it like just every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
Is there one without Sean?
No. We still love him anyway. He's actually on the show when we were filming, he was sometimes just a breath of fresh air. Yeah. He would drop some funny comment and we would, an intense moment. There was many times that all of us would drop some stupid joke, or he was obviously with the dad jokes.
Yes.
But we would say something that would just kind of ease the tension for a minute, and then production would be like, "Hey, we're filming. It's a tense moment. It's Elim. Like, it's serious." And I'm like, "Oh, okay.
Sorry, Dad."
Sorry, but no, there's no group chat without Sean.
All right, Sean. There's no group chat without you, buddy. All right. Episode 1. Niche has a chance to go home right away. I mean, literally from the jump, he has a chance to be eliminated by like 5 masked assailants, basically. Did you ever get to meet the 5?
No.
Really?
No, we never got to meet the intruders. We were filming together that whole day for hours, but they kept the intruders kind of separate.
Yeah.
So, of course, there was some jibber jabber that went on between the two groups when we would pass and whatnot. But we never found out who they were.
That's really interesting.
The funniest part is before Ari explained the rules that day, there were 5 of them, and we thought, is this like a foot race? If it's a foot race, I think I can handle this. I think I can beat at least somebody.
If you're looking at it, you're like, I don't have to beat everyone. It's like
I can beat somebody.
When a bear's chasing you, don't have to be first. You just don't have to be last.
Right. Once he explained the rules, it was different. We were like, okay, one person. Whoever, it's going to be one person exchanged. Yeah. In my mind, when they first came out, I thought, oh my gosh, they're going to switch 5 people out. But then he explained the rules, and we understood that it was just one person, one intruder per one.
Yeah. That was a wild twist because, literally just from the jump, you're like, all right, I've got a chance to win. I don't know how much money. And then all of a sudden, it could just be taken away from you because you're not good at shooting paintball.
Right. And when you're in the heat and you don't know what we went through to begin filming that day. Yeah. It was raining that morning, and we left at like 5 or 6 in the morning. We drove a little over an hour. It was our first time getting mic'd up, besides getting mic'd up in our interviews, but like getting mic'd up as far as
TV stars.
It's Mole Season 2 filming day 1. Yeah. So we're all super nervous, and then we walk to the outside of the field, and we're waiting, and we waited with umbrellas, and then it stopped raining and the sun came out, and it was so hot. I mean,
humidity was probably like 90%.
Here, yes, but it is about 80-90%. Look up the weather in Malaysia right now. It's ridiculous.
I don't want to.
So we were just like sweating, fuming, and then all of a sudden this starts to happen, and so honestly, by the time the intruders, we saw them, it had been probably 2 hours. And from the time we got to the field to that moment of filming, we're just like, what is happening? You don't know what I've gone through already, but they're in these big black suits, so I bet they were pretty hot. So
yeah, they weren't living the good life either.
No.
All right, so I've listened to a couple interviews of your co-stars.
Okay.
I guess is that the right way to call them, co-stars?
My friends.
Your friends?
All right, my friends.
They all seem to kind of allude to almost like a cloak and dagger type of situation where they had to fly to a random country for a TV show.
Yes.
And did you feel that way? Did you have concern over literally your safety? Did you bring an air tag with you so your husband could track you?
So on the initially when they told me we were going to Malaysia, of course, I'm going to look it up on a map. Yeah. I have no idea where Malaysia is at this point. So figuring that out was super fun where it was on a map. Then realizing I get my itinerary and I'm flying 19 hours in one day. Oh. So it it was a lot of flying, and it was a lot of, I didn't have big layovers, but I was on a plane. I'd never been on a plane that long before in my life.
I flew to Vegas from Chicago. I think that's the farthest I've ever.
So I went,
and that was like
Louisville,
4 hours.
Yeah, I went from Louisville to Houston, and then I flew from Houston to Tokyo, Japan, and I had a layover in Japan for a few hours, and then I went from Japan.
What's Japan like for 2 hours just sitting in an airport by yourself?
Well, there was all kinds of different people around. You could tell that it was like a common stop. A lot of the airport was under construction when I was there, so I didn't get to really venture around. I tried to walk around and kind of see all the different stores and everything, that are in airports.
Yeah.
I was there at a time it wasn't super busy either, so I did get some pictures of like their little shops and all their different food and all the and snacks. I did take some snacks with me, but then I flew from Japan to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And I arrived in the evening, and I remember we had to have a disguised name for when production picked us up. So that way, if you saw another person, it wasn't your name. Abby Miller.
Abby Miller
was my name. And they picked us up, and we weren't allowed to really like speak to the driver. So I kind of like sat in the back of the car in silence. Got to my hotel. I met up with Maisie. She was our mom while we were there. She was part of the talent team.
Shout out Maisie.
Yeah, shout out to Maisie. She's from Australia. She's amazing. She met me at the door, and immediately her demeanor made me feel so much more at ease. She's like, we're going to take you to your hotel room. We're going to get your stuff up there. You can order food, and then just go to bed. It's nighttime here, even though it's 12 hours different.
Yeah.
So I get there at night, but I'm
flipping the script.
Yeah, I'm waking up at home. So she's like, try to get on this Malaysia time, and then we'll come back in the morning. And at that point, I was still able to have my phone.
Yeah.
Yes, I was still able to have my phone my first night.
So a lot of questions that I saw were, how did they decide Sean was the mole? Do you know, like behind the scenes stuff, was Sean always going to be the mole, or was there like a legit interview process for, could Ryan have actually been the mole? Right.
So we went through, all of our initial interviews getting casted. And then you start meeting with the producers of the actual show from Eureka Productions. You start meeting with them. And there was an interview where they asked me a lot of questions about how you'd play the game, be the mole, not the mole, would you want to be? And we all had that same interview, which if you watch the movie theater scene, that's where those interviews came from. We all went through them. So after they get to know us more and our personalities, then the mole was chosen.
How did your thought process go from who you originally thought was the mole? Because, I mean, hell, you're just throwing darts at a wall after episode 1.
Right.
I mean, I think it's safe to say you could probably assume Niche wasn't the mole after episode 1.
No,
but
I didn't think he was the mole.
But you got 9 other people that it could be.
Right.
So.
Right. And I know I'm not the
exactly.
mole.
Right. So there's one less. So how did your thought process go? Are you just scattering just as many options as possible?
At that point, I'm just kind of trusting the things that I have seen, maybe somewhat heard, because you're not with everyone. We're separated into groups. And actually, in my car, the first day after the intruder mission, we're in the car. We're in the Defenders, which if you've never looked up those cars, those first cars on that day were legit. And I'm in the car with Sean, Melissa, and Muna. Melissa was a huge suspect for me after that first day. And so she was like on my radar. And people that were in people that were in both groups, they weren't very successful. Obviously, I knew Andy was successful. He did get a shot off. So he was kind of off my radar. But pretty much everyone else in those 2 groups was on my radar at that point.
Yeah.
For the first day. But I did go all in on Melissa the first day.
Okay.
The first day.
So a lot of people said that they kind of did stuff to make themselves feel like they were the mole to other people. Did you do stuff like that?
I
Might have. Did you might have miscalled Big Ben on purpose?
Actually,
that's a question that my wife wanted me to ask.
Actually, the Big Ben statue was just Just an accident
Slip
on
of
the
the tongue?
statue part. But then in the end, and to this day, the rest of the cast likes to be like, okay, statue. And I'm like, okay, if you don't know that Big Ben is a clock, then we need to go back to school here. If you're not aware that Big Ben is a clock. So that was my clue to you. But I did give like this what house is on stilts and all. I gave many clues that got them to where we were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was I guess one of the most interesting things to me about the show is how everything you do and say is just insanely overanalyzed.
Oh, and it's insane.
Like I think Michael is genuinely a good person. I'm glad that he was one of the one of my top choices. The top one is sitting with me, but one of the top choices as far as being just he seemed like a good person.
He is. Yes.
But he also just genuinely felt, no offense, Michael, kind of clumsy.
Oh yeah.
So like that was kind of the perfect cover that like he would goof every now and again, and he could cover it up with like just sheer honesty. Like, I'm sorry guys, like I screwed up.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Like towards the end he knocked over the vase at the end. It's like that looked legit like clumsiness.
Which I never got to see those episodes. I never got to experience them. So watching them back, I was rolling at some of the stuff that happened.
Yeah. I mean, he's literally right next to him. How is he not going to knock him over?
Right. And, and the whole, the big question is like they want to know about the chicken skewer or whatever.
Yeah.
It was a chaotic time.
Leave that to interpretation.
It was a chaotic time. But if someone was watching me at that point and they might have gotten a little confused on why I answered wrong, then it was beneficial to me at that point. I'm sorry, Michael, if I cost you $10,000 at that moment, but then it got drained anyway, so it really doesn't matter.
I think Michael's going to be okay.
It really doesn't matter at this
I think
point.
Michael's going to be all right. All right, so movie theater scene. Everybody got to watch episode 4, if you're paying attention at home. Episode 4, movie theater, everybody gets to watch a video for $5,000. Mm-hmm. How did your interview go? What did you convey that was not on TV? Because I don't remember seeing yours on TV. Nobody, but you were still like, I guess maybe the people watching thought you were a front runner. Did the contestants think you were a front runner at that time?
So at that point, we're only episode 4, and I had been a part of shooting the intruders. Mm-hmm. And 2 of them, and I had been a part of finding the boat and being successful in that group, and then I was super helpful getting the treasure chest to the boat. And then in episode 3, I was a part of the successful group. Mm-hmm. So then we're at the gala. So I'm like, maybe just throw something out there to not be so eager, so eager. So, but you could interpret it differently, whether I'm trying to gain your trust or not.
And we've got the Netflix magic too.
Right. And at that point, they felt like I was a more trustworthy person up to that episode. So, no, my video didn't get watched, but I would say in my interview that I did, it probably would have been more from the videos I have seen, and now there's something out there on that Netflix has put out, the other videos. And after watching everyone's videos and the ones on the screen, I felt like they all matched how we're playing the game, regardless of whether we're the mole. So in my opinion, a lot of people's videos matched how they're already playing the game. I think mine would have been the same, that I was going to gain their trust, be really good in the beginning, and then maybe start slowly changing my tune. So I guess in a sense, I played as the mole, not the mole, in sort of a similar sense up to that point.
Yeah, obviously you can Monday morning quarterback it, but if you could go back and rewatch a movie of somebody, would you have done it again for $5,000?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It brought that much value.
Right. It did because it especially with Sean and his video. I was between Sean and Michael on whose video I wanted to watch. I went back and forth on whose video I wanted to watch. And with Sean's, it shed some light on some other things about him. And I was just waiting for that moment that he took to let us in on some of that information.
Yeah.
And I hadn't gotten to work with Sean at that point. I had gotten to work with Michael. So choosing Sean was because I hadn't gotten to work with him yet.
So there was a clear strategy.
There was a clear strategy to choose somebody that I had not gotten to work with and see, because I don't trust anything that these people are telling me that happened in their group. If they said, oh, so-and-so found the clue, but it was actually, they didn't help at all. You don't know that. You don't know. It's so mind-boggling. I don't trust anything these people say.
I think it was most obvious that everybody was lying just straight to people's faces when Q had the chance to come back. Exactly. You're just point blank, just lying, just directly to everyone.
Oh, I got so roasted on everywhere about my demeanor in there. But
for what it's worth, I would have picked no. Q seemed like an awesome dude. I'd love to hang out with him. But
he is. No,
I'm in this to win it.
Yeah, I mean, so I was one of the ones that voted no, and I think some of the people that voted yes was just for the money and maybe to get intel on like maybe why he went home the first time. Mm-hmm. But in my mind, he wasn't going to tell us anything that we would have wanted to know, and so no. Yeah. And I think he was genuinely shocked because you didn't see it, but we were actually pretty close up to that, and we still are. But up to that time, we were buds, and I thought for sure. I mean, I know that he was shocked that I said no. Because afterwards, I'm like, I said no just because I don't want to play against you. And he's like, I know.
I told my wife that when I was watching, I said, this would be the perfect Netflix producer swerve that Cube knew all the answers ahead of time. He came back knowing exactly how many people said no, exactly how many people said yes. He knew exactly who said yes and no, and then just got to listen for 5 minutes. You guys just feed him a bunch of BS. Right. And then he's like, actually, I know you said yes, I know you said no, and then just throw everyone for a whirl.
No, he didn't. It wasn't
Netflix, you dropped the ball.
It wasn't until Muna looked at him and said, and that's honestly what happened. And that's why I was like,
we're doing this.
Are you for real?
We're doing this.
Why are we just telling him? I mean, but 20,000 in the pot, okay. Yeah. I mean,
I don't think Michael's too upset by that now.
No, he's not. No, he's not.
So not everything made the cut. 6 weeks of recording to 10 episodes of about 40 minutes long. Right. What was something that you wished it made the cut, but maybe it didn't?
Well.
Maybe a moment that you had with the.
Yeah, wish that made the cut. So there's so many times, it's a game show, and there's so many times where we were in the game, but then you saw like that everybody here is human. Everybody here has feelings. At some point, our guards came down together, and you've had those moments of these are people that have my back, that are going to be in my life for a long time. We're experiencing this thing together. There's like bonding moments, but also where they get to know something about you. So my group went actually after Q, we had to decide who was going to go in the caves and climb, and who was going to go into like the claustrophobic like water area of the caves. And so Hannah's like physical, and she was pointing at me to do the more physical side of it, which is fine. And at that point, I had not disclosed, some things about me personally to the whole group. So we're in the car traveling, and Michael, Nish, and Hannah and myself are in the car. And so I take this moment to just kind of tell them like, hey, we are going to do something physical. I don't know how hard or how tough it's going to be, but I want you to know that if I literally ask for help or need your assistance, like physically, it's not a joke. It's serious. It's legit. And I proceeded to tell them about my functional movement disorder that I have. I did express to them what happened to me in 2019 when I was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome. And, I literally told them that there was moments of my life in the last few years that I have not been able to walk and had to relearn how to walk. I've gone through like extensive rehab. And, up to that point, I hadn't had a relapse in a year or two. So this was a year ago. Yeah, like I hadn't had a relapse in a long time, but I wasn't sure what physical capabilities this was going to require.
And does stress cause?
Yes, stress elevates some of my symptoms. My grip is hard for me. So like if I had to like really climb or grip anything like that, we weren't sure what we were going to have to do. Obviously we're going in blind, into this cave. And it just kind of it was real serious. We were all wondering. And then I shared this with them, and they all were just like, we've got you. Like, no matter what, we've got you.
At the end of the day, they're human.
At the end of the day, they're human. And so that was, proceeded in my exit of the show when, Michael expressed like, she's so strong, and like Hannah's like, she's batty. It's like, because they know those things about myself, And so that was a touching moment for me, not only to have that moment and share that with them, but then to have that at the end to see those things that they think about you and how much they truly respect you were moments that I'll just like never forget.
Yeah, and I think those behind the scenes things are probably what's created the close knitness of, because you guys already chose throats for 40 minutes on every episode.
Oh, yeah.
And rightfully so.
Right. It was just
drama sells.
It can be so stressful, and that's another reason, she's quiet, she doesn't say much. I do say a lot, but I'm going to pick my battles, because getting myself overly stressed can just cause me to go into just a nerve symptom like frenzy. So it wasn't worth it at that point to argue about every single thing that happened. Yeah.
So I promised my daughter that I would let her ask a question.
Okay.
Her question is, she wanted to know if you thought Michael was the mole when you first got there. And then a follow-up that I have to it is, how many times did you change who you thought the mole was?
Well, that's a good question. Okay. So initially, like I said, I started with Melissa.
Yep.
And up to episode 3, I went all in on Melissa. Then sweet Melissa goes home, and she's sitting across from me. And her screen turns red, and I was just like,
Uh-oh.
I was stunned. So I was wrong and shocked, gut-wrenching. So I'm like, I'm at square one now. I'm rethinking everything that I've seen and everything. So then comes the next mission, and I'm deciding between Sean and Michael and whose video to watch. This is literally like 2 days later. So I'm taking the time to like, okay, my other suspects here, and watch Sean's. So then I am voting for Sean for 3 or 4 episodes. I don't know how many quizzes up to this point. And, so in your mind, you can be wrong. In my mind, I've proven that you can be wrong and stay, right? You can be wrong and stay. Through this time, Sean does not work with me until after the 10 mission, when I've already worked with Michael. Fun fact, that they told us at the finale and I didn't make it. Another punch to the gut. I believe it was at the helipad. That quiz, I got 20 out of 20.
Wow. On
Sean.
Nice.
But you don't know that.
Yeah.
You don't know any of that.
Yeah, you could have gotten 2 right.
I could have gotten 2 right and just stayed because everybody else sucked,
Yeah.
So they did tell us at the finale that I did, and so I think that's something really cool. Now, of course, in the end, didn't end up winning, but eventually I worked with Michael, and just that's all the things I'd seen with my own eyes that really happened. So towards the end, I had kind of moved on, and Sean had started bring up his other job and all this stuff. So it was a double bluff. It worked. Him acknowledging it.
Would Netflix really make an undercover cop go in undercover?
Yeah, him acknowledging it was a double bluff for me. It totally worked. Sean knew that I was pretty much onto him, so he didn't really want to work with me very much. In the end, come to find out, he did not. And Michael had a feeling I was onto Sean as well, and so he
started sabotaging it too.
He made sure he was going to put the nail
Michael
in
knew
the
he
coffin.
wasn't the mole, obviously.
Right. And but I had, even though it screwed me in the end, and I switched, it was totally my decision. But,
Who did you vote? So did you vote for Michael when you went out?
Yes. Okay. But I knew that some of the questions also went for Sean, so I was like, okay, I'm a little covered. If not, it just wasn't enough. In that double elimination, it just wasn't enough.
It sounded, this is, watching the show, and you watched the same thing that I saw, but you obviously know more. It seemed like Muna and Michael were dead on Sean at the end.
Yeah.
So if you weren't going all in at Sean, I don't think you had a chance towards the end.
Right. And that's something I've told myself, people are like, do you have regrets not winning? And I got to go to Malaysia and be on a Netflix show. And what I think they told us the first day, you're the 12 chosen out of, 10, 20, 30,000 applicants, so it's like, okay, but I don't have any regrets. I put it in my mind that if this happened and this happened, then it was this person. And when you go back to your room every night, you're alone with your thoughts. Yeah. You are alone to calculate and replay everyone's move. And so, Michael and I worked together many times. Something always shady was going on, whether it looked like I was doing it or he was doing it. But we had on the 10 mission, that was probably we had so much fun doing that together. Even though it looks like we're just dumb the whole time, there was so many funny things that happened. Like he was spilling water all over me. There was all these funny things. And I remember the camera guy and our story producer that was in there at the time, they were just rolling, watching us. They were rolling, watching us. And so at the end of that mission, we thought, well, everyone's mad at us. This is great. But that was fun. And they're either going to show that we had a lot of fun or that we're like super dumb. So which is it? Which is it? Ended up being we had no idea what we were doing. But we were looking for something to convert that for us. Yeah. So whatever.
Let's ask some behind the scenes stuff.
Okay.
All right. Who was the most, besides yourself, who was the most authentic on camera and off camera?
Ooh.
Who felt the same?
Who felt the same all the time?
Yeah.
Probably from what they showed.
Yeah, from what you see. Yeah, from what you
Okay.
see on TV after rewatching it. Who felt that way versus when you guys were off camera hanging out by the pool or?
Oh, Deanna.
Deanna.
Yeah, what you see on there is all Deanna, and what you get is all, not Deanna. From what was shown. Now, like, there's a lot of us that have bigger personalities than what we're shown.
Mm-hmm. I think camera too kind of dials it up a little bit. You're like, I'm on a TV show. I gotta be
right. The mole sus at I'll rephrase. The mole sus like persona of me and getting to watch it was so fun. Yeah. It was so fun. Apparently everyone in my life thinks that I'm just as devious as what they showed. So I'm like, am I offended or am I okay with it? They're like, we're not surprised. Oh, I didn't know I was that devious, but okay.
I saw this funny story. I was sitting there watching it with my wife and they introduced Deanna and I'm like, I know her.
Right.
And she's like, how do you know her? I was like, I swear to God, I know her. She was like, that's the one you know? I was like, no, I know Ryan. I was like, I know Deanna though. I swear. And I'm like, she's from something. She is from something. And I Google it and I got so excited. And I was like, see, I told you she's from Don't F with Cats.
Which I had never seen it. Now, some others had seen it. Yeah. And kind of were like, hey.
I think it came out around the time you were in Malaysia.
I think it was during COVID.
Oh, was it a COVID thing?
I think it was a COVID thing. But I had never seen it. I watched it as soon as I got home.
100%.
I watched it as soon as I got home. Yeah. She's amazing. And but some of the cast did know, but it was definitely something we weren't allowed to bring up while on camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Who stuck on a desert island? Who would you pick?
To be with me?
Yes.
Ooh. Stuck on a desert island. Who would you pick?
Because remember, all these are trained liars.
I
now.
know. In like survival mode. I'd probably pick Han.
Who?
Hannah.
Oh, Hannah. Okay. Who would answer their phone if you called them right now?
Who would answer if I called them
Who's most likely to answer right now?
Michael.
Okay. What was the food like backstage?
Food. So we had a food, there's 100+ crew at all times. They also have a food truck or like a truck that had like everything they need, and they cooked for all of the crew and they cooked for us while we were filming. It was rice, we always had a good like protein, a veggie, rice, normal whole food things. And then the talent team, Maisie and Gabe, Angel, all these other wonderful people, they always had like nutrient bars or Nature Valley bars, water,
Pick me up,
Coke Zero, Coke. There was these things called 100, and it was basically like an energy electrolyte drink. And so they're 100, so it was like to help us keep us hydrated and everything. So they always had anything and everything that we want, and they had lollies. So the lollies are like little just single pack of gummies, and like, you want a lolly? I'm like, yeah. All the crew was Australian for the most part.
Yeah.
Gabe is.
So I know they do a lot of recording for TV shows in Australia.
Eureka is in Australia and the U.S. The production company.
Okay.
And most of the crew was from Australia, and then Gabe was from Brazil. Yeah, on our talent team.
Where did you go when you got eliminated?
So
were you literally just, sorry to cut you off, were you literally just escorted right out?
Yes.
And then you hopped in a
that is completely true.
badass SUV, by the way, and just took you off.
Right. You don't get to see anything after you're filmed on your walkout. I mean, you immediately stand, red screen, you are up, and if they want to shout something, like they can to you, but it's to keep the integrity of the game. Because I could have told Michael or Hannah, like, hey, if I get eliminated, I'm going to blink 3 times, and this is it. This is what I did.
Yeah.
So we are escorted immediately, and then the next day we go through interview, and then I was transferred to a different hotel, a huge, luxurious hotel, and I actually got to be with Deanna.
Okay, I was gonna ask that. Did you get to hang out with anybody?
Yes, we were eliminated together. And then I'll never forget the day, this is like a day or 2 later, probably 2 days later. Because basically right now we're down to less than a week before we come home. Mm-hmm. The final 6, we're down to less than a week. The final 6, for those 4 or 5 days, we were a vibe. I mean, we had the most fun together. Mm-hmm. And while we were filming, when we were like having dinner, those type of things. So then I was eliminated, got to be with Deanna. After we got moved to
Did everybody get to be with somebody, or did you just, because you guys went home at the same time, you had the same knowledge?
So when you were, everybody else got to be paired up. So if like the first elimination, second paired, third, fourth paired up. But they were in different places.
Who went first, Jen?
Jen and then Andy.
And
so
Andy?
They were in different places. So they were maybe had to stay where we were filming at that point, and then the next 2 had to be where they were filming. So we were in the final place.
So Jen and Andy just had a 5-week vacation together?
And I think maybe it was Andy. Maybe it was Andy and Melissa and Jen. I don't know. I don't know exactly.
I'm just thinking they're so different personality-wise.
Oh yeah, I think they had a bunch of fun. I know that
I'm sure they did.
I know that they did travel around and go.
Yeah,
do
you're a
some
5-star
sightseeing.
resort. Yeah.
They got to do some sightseeing. Andy's real big in escape rooms, so he did some escape rooms.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
they got to see different areas.
Yeah.
We were in Penang, and it was beautiful. Deanna and I were together, and then 2 days later, I get a call, and they're like, "You need to come pick up Hannah." And I was like,
"That's bittersweet."
So yeah, I was excited to go get her.
Yeah.
Hannah and I had spent a lot of time together at the retreat, where we stayed for the cave mission, and so I knew that whatever happened, she was going to be content with how she played, and that I'm sure she was sad and to not win, but she was proud of herself. Yeah. So I was excited to go get her. Deanna was crying. She felt so bad, and I was just like, yay, we get another person. So me being inconsiderate of Hannah's feelings. But we go and pick her up, and we went to the beach. Hannah and I rode horses.
Rough life.
Yes, horses. We rode horses on the sand, like at the beach. We went to this building at the top of something in Penang, and it was like, it went out on the roof of the building, and it was glass bottom. And it were like
that's cool.
Way high. So I have a video of that. I haven't shared that video yet. So we had some fun, and we were actually by this like little mall pavilion. So we went shopping, but we had the best few days, and then we were back to filming the finale. So
yeah.
And during that whole time, we're in touch with the talent team. We know there's certain places in Penang that we are not allowed to go. There's certain like streets and areas that we had to avoid because they were going to be filmed.
Yeah, I know you said you had handlers during the show. Did you have handlers after the show as well? Or were you guys kind of just like on the honor system? We're not going to go here because...
It was an honor system, but we were texting back and forth with them, and they were checking in and how we were doing. Did we need anything? You know, we weren't under direct supervision, but they checked in a lot with us.
Yeah. Has there been any places that you've been recognized since the show came out, besides like Friends of Fame?
Yeah. So I was in Atlanta for softball this past weekend, and I go into a Chick-fil-A, and it's like closing time. It's like 9 or 10 p.m. And these three girls, I guess, noticed me at the drive-thru. They're working, and they noticed me at the drive-thru. And my oldest daughter, Bella, she's 15, and she like taps me on the back of her shoulder, and she's like, Mom, they know. What? I'm turning around. Ben's beside me. He's like, what?
Yeah.
And she's like, don't look. Oh my gosh, they know, Mom. And I look over in the drive-thru, and they're looking and talking, and I went, Yes.
Yeah, it's me.
No, really? And they were so excited. I did get a picture with them, and they were just so excited. So I did share that picture on my Instagram story for them to see.
From our last question, and then we've got some one-hitters from some of your friends on social media and followers on social media. So my wife wants to know, what was the most challenging mission?
Challenging mission. I guess the most challenging, but the most fun was the most challenging and most fun was the treasure hunt mission.
Yeah, that was cool.
The swimming, I'm a really good swimmer, but it was tough. It was tough. I know I got roasted for not being able to go down and get the emergency kit, but I was also testing Michael at that point, so it was strategy.
We're playing chess here, people.
Yeah, okay. I'm not just going to be so eager to go get everything. But it was challenging. We were out in the water for a long time, and I remember the day after that, I was wiped. My body was wiped.
Did y'all get a day to recover after that, or are you just back on the saddle?
So we had elim the next day, and that was actually a day that I just had the day of that elim. That evening after Andy was eliminated, I went back to my room at Tioman Island, and I was having an episode of like my legs were hurting, they were tingling, they were like numb, and I remember just like kind of like hyperventilating, and I called Maisie in and I said, I need to call home. Like I know that we're in the middle of filming, and I got to call home about once a week because I do have kids that are so little. Yeah. And I was like, as soon as I can, like the next, like after interviews, I need to check, like I need to call home. Like I just need like something.
You just need to touch the ground.
Right. And so she was like, okay, well after, they let me call like a day later, which we're busy. We're filming and stuff. So those days are pretty busy. So, but she offered for me to talk with the therapist or psychologist that we have on call as well.
That's interesting. We had talked about it last night when we were talking on the phone before this, is that you guys had a psychiatrist that you could talk to, because it's kind of a mind completely opposite schedule. You're with a bunch of people. Everything's being thrown at you. Right. It would make sense.
Who do you call when you need advice, when you need help, when your mind is totally messing with you, when you are indecisive? Who do you call? Your spouse.
My wife, yeah.
Right.
That every time.
Exactly. And it's even more, I understand being alone in the hotel and everything. I understand that we can't be interacting so much off camera. But when you're just alone with your thoughts, you can drive yourself nuts. And I had a journal with stuff about everybody, and I read it, or I read my book, but then I'm reading my book, but I'm thinking about the game, so I'm not actually reading.
Yeah, you get halfway down the page.
Yeah,
like, what did I just read?
Yeah, it's so I know many of us utilize the therapist, psychologist that was on call, that we could set up a meeting with her. I know many of us utilize that. Yeah.
So you put out on social media, I saw this as well, that you're like, hey, I'm going on a podcast. What are some questions you want to be asked?
Oh, there were so many.
A lot of them we've already asked.
Right,
so apologies, and we can't ask them all. You had like 12 pages of screenshots that you sent to me. I can't ask them all. Right. So I'll pick some of the good ones. I'll try to give some shout outs to the people that asked them. So first one is from Tracy Frederick. Did you win any money?
No.
Did Sean get any money by being the mole?
Sean is, or whoever the mole is, whoever they chose is somewhat of think of them as like an employee for production. So they, I don't know what his compensation is.
But he did get something probably.
Yeah, you're definitely somewhat of their type of employee. So, because he obviously can't win the money. So he can't win the money in the end. So I don't know what he gets or anything like that.
Ashley Hudnail asks, how much did you try to buy for the exemption? I wanted to ask this, but I saw that she asked it, so I wanted to give her credit for that.
Oh, I was wondering if they were going to show like everybody's, because we did do camera shots like behind our heads of what we typed. Yeah. Just $35K. Could
have been worse. I will say that when
we were all agreeing not to go above a certain number. Yeah. And so the number not to go above was like 30K.
When Niche took the full amount.
So I was like, I'll just go 35K. So whoever does 30 or 30, whoever maxes it out doesn't beat me. Little did I know Niche was going to do the whole pot.
Sean had to be doing backflips in his head when that happened.
Yeah, you're welcome, Sean. You're so welcome that we're so good at this game.
Rayleigh Tutt says, was the veggie dumpling incident a true mistake or sabotage?
It was definitely just to draw a little bit suspicion, but there was 5 other people. Only one person could talk in the comms at one time.
Yeah. So
we're all we've served all this food and drinks, and we're, when it gets to your tables to answer the question, only one person is going to answer. Everybody else is watching them. Mm-hmm. So, throw something out there that maybe isn't completely correct, then somebody will catch it, or maybe they aren't going to catch it, or they're not going to say anything. But, I had also caught others saying the wrong line. So I had to interpret in my head, was it just a lot going on? And we were looking from afar at times, looking from across the room, because we weren't always standing right there. I mean, how awkward would it be to stand right there and be like, you have chicken, you have veggie, you have chicken. These people are interacting and talking to each other. So we were trying to also look from afar and see what they had.
Bruno Roca wants to know, how often were the missions?
How often were the missions? So a normal filming day is all mission, and then we'll do elim the next day, and then interviews. So it's usually a three-day turnaround for everything.
I have a follow-up to that because I'm curious. When they cut to you guys talking and you look like you're in an interrogation room, those are I'm confident in the answer, but I need to hear it from someone who's actually been through it. Those are all done after the fact, right?
Yes.
They don't say, all right, everybody stop, and then we pull you in a room, we're going to talk to you for a minute, and then we get back to it.
Those
all done after the fact.
Those are post-mission, and you go through the whole day, the whole elim. You go through everything and put yourself back in that situation and what you were thinking at that time. It almost brings up whatever you were feeling in that moment. You feel it because you're talking about everything that happened. So, and you're talking about who did something suspicious, who didn't. So it's honestly another mind thing where you're going through your interview and you're like, did so-and-so? Oh, they did. Yeah. Oh, man. So you're going through it again and again and again, which another thing is makes it so great is you go through the missions and elim, and so you don't know, you're processing all your thoughts. So then when it comes to interview, you can spill all your thoughts. So production really gets everything in those interviews, because we're just we haven't gotten to talk to anybody about it yet. So there's literally no interaction until we do our interview with anyone, because they want your authentic thoughts and processes. And sometimes it was like therapy, going through it, and it was like therapy. You're talking to the producer, and they're asking, they may ask questions, but basically you lead the conversation with how you interpreted how everything happened. Yeah.
So last one, Kay Hush. I'm not even gonna try and pronounce the rest of that. Kay Hush wants to know, did you actually get kidnapped?
Yeah.
Did they really? They broke into the hotel room in the middle of the night?
No, well, it wasn't that. It was, I was told what time I needed to be ready.
Coordinated kidnap.
So I was told what time we would begin filming that next day. Yeah. But that night, I remember they wouldn't tell us as a group. And I remember thinking why will they just not tell us hey, we're going to get you out of your rooms this time? They wouldn't tell us. So they come and tell me individually, how are you feeling? Da, 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 da. This is what time, this is what breakfast is. I'm like, okay, so I'm ready. And it's just where, do I need tennis shoes? Do I need heels? What, they come in, they tell me this is, excuse me, they come in, they tell me this is what you're wearing. And I'm like, okay, tennis shoes, high heels, whatever, tennis shoes, comfy shoes. Yeah. Like, okay, cool. Not any different than anything we've ever done. So then I'm ready, and I go out, and I leave my room, and there's tables where they're eating breakfast is where I would have eaten breakfast. Yeah. But they immediately put me in a van. And I'm like, and I'm by myself in this van. And lo and behold, I'm taken to a different location by myself. And then they're telling me that I'm going to be kidnapped. And I'm blindfolded, headphones on, and put in a van.
Yeah. All right, so one last question, and I'll let you go. I just thought of this.
Okay.
Did the phones light up that bright in person?
Yes.
So why did everybody have to show?
So that's just how you do it. You have to. Yeah,
we all knew.
Yeah, you show it at yourself, and then you show them. I guess
that was a direction.
Yeah, that we had to do that every time.
It was just funny to me.
Right. The joke was when we got home from filming, it was like everyone's getting a red phone case, and it was all like, no, no one's getting a red phone case ever in their life.
Did you get to keep the phone as a souvenir?
No.
They kept it from you?
No. The crew production kept the phones, so when it was time, they would set our phone with our name. You saw our name.
Yeah, it was on them.
They would set our phone in front of us, and that noise that goes doo-doo, that happens all on camera. It's not played like that. He types it in, it goes straight to our phone, and it makes the noise, and we pick it up. It has our name on it. Boom.
I always felt like Ari had, every time he talked, it felt like he was about to drop the other shoe. I don't know who he was. I don't know who he was. I'm sure he does other stuff, like you're not just gonna pick some random guy to be a TV host. But like I didn't know who he was or what he was from, but he did it so it was so
yeah.
I couldn't stop watching and listening to him because every time he said something, it felt like there was a but coming.
Right. And he would be looking around, and then he'd go, look at you and go, Ryan. And I'm over here and
yeah.
he
would be like, and we're done for the night. And then you're just like, but and waiting for that to come.
Sitting there waiting for your name to be called, you're like, call me first, call me first, call me first, call me first. And then when it got to you, you're like, it's not my turn. Is it really my turn? I don't want it to be my turn.
I knew that Deanna was going home when she was second to last on her mission, because they're not going to do Hannah last,
which I didn't get to see her exit and everything. I didn't get to see her elimination, and obviously I knew as a viewer that it was coming. Yeah. Watching our elimination was pretty emotional, because you're keeping this secret for like a year, so you process everything when it happens, and then you're reliving it, which is a blessing that you get to relive it over and over and over forever on Netflix.
Be on forever, yeah.
But then yet you're processing like your emotions the whole time. I remember the day on July 12th when everything aired. I remember I cried a lot, and I didn't even realize it. I just had tears, like putting myself back in that situation, and then just kind of randomly kind of cried throughout the day. Just like, it was almost like a weight. Yeah. A weight was lifted, we were done filming, but now as a group, we're in like a grieving process in a sense, because we feel like it's out, it's there, we're in this like over stage, but I feel like there's so much coming for so many of us that we're just trying to have each other's backs, hype each other up, and just like waiting for what's next for all of us. Yeah. Because it was a once in a lifetime experience that I'm glad fear and my responsibilities here didn't keep me from going.
Well, I think, shout out to your husband. He held down the fort for a while.
Yeah, him and a lot of family and friends had to help, because I'm home with the kids every day. Yeah. So it was in the middle of summer, so it was a lot. I remember getting home, and he's like, I had to fill out so many forms for the first day of school. I was like, exactly, it's a lot for 4
He's like, you're not on season 3.
Right, which I hope that the show gets a lot of traction, and there is a season 3.
I think there will. I see it everywhere.
I would love it.
So I'm a realtor by trade.
Yes.
All right. Once you buy or sell a house, you get a closing gift. Okay. So we're going to close this out with a gift. While I'm grabbing it out of my backpack, do you want to give a shout out to your Instagram, your TikTok, whatever you have where people can find you or follow you? Because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of, hopefully some of these clips will be on there, but also I'm sure this isn't the first time somebody's going to want to talk to you. Right. So, where can people find you?
Right. So you can find me on Instagram at RyanW270 or on TikTok at RyanWarner01. I don't post much on Twitter. You can find my name if you search it there, but I will be sharing a lot of these videos. I think these are so many questions that so many people have asked, And so I was waiting for this interview to really answer them and then give them a place to go find it and go find the answer. And I think that maybe more questions will stem from it. So if you've got any more, you can DM me. I really do engage a lot with my followers. I try to reply or answer them or answer their questions. So they've been waiting for these questions, I think. But now they'll be out there.
Yes. Well, so you went through a very stressful time.
Oh,
a great way to deal with stress is buying.
Oh, thank you.
Is if you were buying a house, congrats.
Thank you.
On a serious note, thank you.
Yeah.
We've known each other for like 20 years.
I know.
So to be the first to be able to actually get you for a long form sit down, I appreciate your time. And seriously, thank you.
Yeah.
And congrats on an
Thank
amazing
you.
season.
Yeah. I hope you love the show. If you
played
haven't
it
watched
well.
it, go watch it.
Yeah,
Go
great
watch
show. And it's got my full endorsement. So
Yeah.
other than that, Ryan, thanks.
Thank you, Jake.